Democrat-run cities, on average, are dangerous, messy, and no place to raise kids. For example, 8 of America's 10 murder capitals have one thing in common: they're all run by Democrats. Let's take a trip across the country, city by city, to see why these blue strongholds are failing. Once an amazing getaway, Los Angeles today feels like a scene from The Purge. In early 2025, deadly fires ripped through California and destroyed parts of Pacific Palisades. Firefighters watched hillsides burn while hydrants ran bone dry. Why? Because state officials spent years diverting water and billions in resources to save a tiny fish called the Delta smelt instead of maintaining vital reservoirs. Only in Gavin Newsom's California does a 2-inch fish get more attention than the fire lines. President Trump had warned years ago that California needed to clear dry brush and maintain its forests.
You gotta take care of the floors, the floors of the forests, very important. You look at other countries where they do it differently, and it's a whole different story. I was with the president of Finland, and he said, we have a much different, we're a forest nation. He called it a forest nation. And they spend a lot of time on raking and cleaning and doing things, and they don't have any problem. And when it is, it's a very small problem. So I know everybody's looking at that, to that end, and it's going to work out.
But Democrats didn't listen. The result? Burning homes and empty hydrants. Fast forward 6 months, and chaos hit the streets. Anti-Trump mobs torched police cruisers and federal buildings around MacArthur Park. It got so bad that 4,000 National Guardsmen and 700 Marines were deployed to stop the riots. But the failures weren't just in emergencies, they were baked into daily life. During COVID, blue city bosses shut schools the longest. Kids in Los Angeles, Chicago, and New York fell behind by roughly half a grade level in reading due to prolonged virtual learning. And then it got worse. In New York City, while students were still recovering from lockdown damage, Democrat officials started turning public school gyms into migrant shelters. Parents showed up furious when they learned their kids' schools were being used to house adult migrants. Some gyms were even in use during school hours. Some were connected to elementary schools, but it didn't matter. The city went ahead anyway. Mayor Eric Adams said he had no choice, but people saw what was really going on. Taxpayers took a back seat to the open border crisis. Many children never returned to the classroom at all. In Chicago, public school enrollment plummeted by tens of thousands of students after the lockdown. Some families just gave up on the system. Meanwhile, red states like Florida reopened schools early. Florida's leaders like Governor Ron DeSantis kept kids in class and chose freedom over Fauci, while idiots like Gavin Newsom offered the complete opposite.
We are now putting forth guidelines that say, based on the data, based upon the background spread, the community spread of the virus, that if you are not on that monitoring list, you can move forward as a county if you choose to physically open your campus, physically open your schools.
I believe we owe every Florida parent a choice to send your child back to school for in-person instruction or to opt to maintain distance learning. The evidence that schools can be open in a safe way is overwhelming, yet I also understand the apprehension that some parents may feel, and I believe in empowering them with a choice.
The results speak for themselves. Florida students suffered far less learning loss, and the state now leads the nation in job growth. Its private sector growth rate outpaces the U.S. average. In short, blue cities hurt their own children with unnecessary lockdowns, while places like Florida protected both education and the economy. Remember when Democratic mayors proudly declared their cities sanctuary cities?
We know the strength of a city is determined by how we treat the most vulnerable. We must reject a zero-sum formulation between investing in those who have been here and supporting those who have been sit here on a bus even this morning.
I mean, we live in a city that welcomes immigrants.
I'm proud that this is a right to shelter state, and we're going to continue to do that.
They virtue signaled that everyone was welcome until a massive migrant wave actually arrived. Now the bill is due, and it's massive. New York City has seen over 170,000 migrants come through, and the city is starting at a $12 billion price tag by next year. Emergency shelters are full, hotels are booked with migrants, and Mayor Eric Adams is warning that services will be cut as a result. Chicago has taken in more than 51,000 migrants so far and has already burned through about $640 million million on hotels, shelters, and tent camps. The city is scrambling for space and cash it doesn't have. Denver received around 45,000 migrants in the past year and expects to spend around $180 million caring for them, even cutting city services to cover the costs. These cities once bragged about welcoming everyone, but now their taxpayers are left holding the bag. The sanctuary city experiment crashed into reality, and even liberal mayors are begging Washington for help. And if you thought the fires and riots were bad, wait until you see what the streets actually look like. In Democrat-run cities, homelessness isn't just a problem, it's the norm. Los Angeles alone has over 52,000 people sleeping on sidewalks or in makeshift encampments, the largest unsheltered population in the country. Entire neighborhoods have become open-air tent cities. Up in Portland, officials actually handed out free tents and tarps, spending about $250,000 just on waterproof tarps. Not surprisingly, the more tents they gave out, the more tent encampments popped up. Parks, bus stops, and playgrounds have all been taken over. Families pay taxes to fund these places, and now they can't even use them. It's not compassionate, it's collapse. And on a personal note, the city I live in used to have a beautiful green right in the center of town. In the past, families would walk through, kids would play, and it actually felt safe. But now, every bench is taken by the homeless. Beer bottles, trash, and needles scattered everywhere. Unfortunately, because of my job, I still have to live here, so I got myself an apartment as far away from that green as I could. Anyways, back to the video. Alongside the homelessness crisis comes an even more horrifying scourge: open-air drug abuse and fentanyl overdoses. In 2023, San Francisco recorded 806 deaths, the highest ever, and fentanyl was involved in more than 80% of them. Think about that. Hundreds of people dying on the streets, many in broad daylight. San Francisco's downtown now has scenes that look like The Walking Dead. People hunched over, sprawling out on sidewalks in a induced stupor. In Philadelphia, neighborhoods have gone viral on social media, with horrifying zombie footage garnering hundreds of millions of views as Americans watch in shock at what's become of these once thriving areas. And it's getting worse. The CDC just rang the alarm about a new twist. A veterinary sedative called medetomidine now shows up in over 70% of street opioid samples in places like Philly. This similar to Tranq, aka xylazine, is so powerful that naloxone can't easily revive its victims. Blue City leaders have responded by handing out clean needles, overdose kits, even considering safe injection sites, and then calling that progress. It's no coincidence that 8 of the 10 US cities with the highest murder rates are run by Democrats. Detroit and Baltimore had some of the nation's highest homicide rates and have been among the murder capitals for decades. Instead of reversing course, these cities flirted with defunding their police and electing soft-on-crime prosecutors. The predictable result? Crime skyrocketed and residents feel unsafe. Chicago, for example, now has the worst big city unemployment rate in America at 6.2%, partly because businesses are fleeing due to crime and high taxes. Why open a store or start a company in a city where your employees feel unsafe and your shop might be ransacked? In fact, an epidemic of retail theft has emptied out many blue city business districts. Walgreens, for example, has closed 17 stores in San Francisco because organized shoplifting made them unsustainable. Viral videos showed people walking into San Francisco drugstores with garbage bags, filling them up with stolen goods in broad daylight, and walking out with zero consequences. The shoplifting epidemic got so bad that even fake news CNN did a report on it.
In the 30 minutes we were at this Walgreens, we watched 3 people, including this man, steal.
Did that guy pay? Did that guy pay? He didn't pay.
Police often can't or won't respond unless the theft is over $950, which is California's threshold for a felony. San Francisco's iconic Westfield Mall, once a flagship downtown, is now half empty, with its anchor stores like Nordstrom and Bloomingdale's gone and nearly half the mall's space vacant. It's a ghost town because rampant theft, homelessness, and safety concerns drove customers away. The same story is playing out in Portland, Seattle, Chicago, and even my city. When law and order breaks down, businesses vote with their feet. They close stores, cut jobs, and move out. But who can blame them? If there's anything 2024 taught us, it's people aren't dumb. When their city declines and their family's safety and prosperity are at risk, they pack a U-Haul and leave. The past few years have seen a huge exodus from blue states and cities to places like Florida. In just 1 year, Florida gained about $39 billion in income from new residents moving in, while California lost $29 billion and New York lost lost $24 billion from people fleeing high-tax, high-crime areas. Moving vans are filled to the brim leaving California. The state actually ran out of U-Haul trucks because so many people wanted to get out.
In tonight's Fact or Fiction, we're looking into a story that you may have seen. It claims that so many people are leaving California that U-Haul ran out of trucks in our state. It's apparently true. This month, U-Haul put out a news release in which it said California was the state that saw the biggest loss of one-way U-Haul trucks in 2021. In fact, U-Haul says it actually ran out of trucks to rent out here. The top destination for U-Haul trucks was Texas, followed by Florida, Tennessee, South Carolina, and Arizona. California's population has been steadily declining as more people leave the state, while the number of people moving here has dropped.
And it's not just rich people, it's middle-class families and retirees too, all voting with their feet. 7 of America's 25 fastest-growing metro areas are in Florida, and Florida was home to 14 of the top 25 growth areas. Why? It's simple. Sunshine, low taxes, jobs, and common sense. The mass migration tells the tale. When given a choice, millions are leaving blue utopias for red states that offer basic common sense. And just when you'd think these blue strongholds might wake up and change course, some of them are doubling down. Take New York City, for example. Zoran Mandami, the Democratic nominee for mayor of New York City, openly calls himself a socialist and talks about abolishing prisons.
Are prisons obsolete?
Whew. But I think that, frankly, I mean, what purpose do they serve? Right? I think we have to ask ourselves that, which is that, you know, I think a lot of people who defend the carceral state, they defend the idea of it and the way it makes them feel. They're not defending the reality of it and the practices that are part and parcel of it.
He's pitching a grab bag of free services, from free public transit to free childcare, with a price tag north of $60 billion in new spending by some estimates. Mandami literally wants to triple the city's housing budget, adding tens of billions in debt, raise the minimum wage to $30 an hour, and implement a host of new social programs. It's a wish list that sounds great at a rally, but would drive New York's fragile post-COVID economy straight over a cliff. In conclusion, the pattern is clear across our tour of blue cities. One-party liberal rule leads to high crime, high taxes, failing services, and an exodus of anyone who can leave. If you're like me and live in a blue city, God bless you. Thank you for watching.